Rocky Bellinger, Into the Door Rocky. Thank you so much for joining the show. You're going to probably disagree with this first part. You can reach out to us, call us personally. Rocky's one of our longest loyalist fans. We are aloha friends and stuff. But obviously there's a little discrepancy right now. And I just want to point this out again, fam, because it's kind of a little bit rough. People are like, you all right, Pasta? I'm like, yeah, because you get attacked by people that you said, I love, your friends, and now they're upset. But we got to be honest in our assessment, fam. We got to be we got to give honest criticism when we see it, and we're going to call it out. And it doesn't make a difference who it is. And I think you've said on this show more than 1,000 times, stop praising politicians,
idealizing them to the point where you think like they can do no wrong, right? They know better than you. I don't even like hearing that from people, that I think this person knows better than me, because that's been our problem in society in America, that we deem they deem everybody too stupid, and you deem yourself too stupid to know what's going on. And you have to get that whole thought out of your head, because a lot of these politicians don't know what to do. They don't know more than we do. In fact, we know more than them. And that's why this is a problem. And it's not sometimes that they don't know, it's that there are interests that they are working on the behalf of certain interests that they need to adhere to over what is actually good for the public. Politicians will always be politicians first. They're not going to be your friends. So again, I think this whole year and a half has taught us, that we can't rely on any politician. I mean, from AOC to Bernie Sanders, are you kidding me? I understand the devastation some people feel with Tulsi. Like, I understand the disappointment. I felt that for Bernie Sanders when he started, going the way he did several times. I mean, I felt it the first time in 2016, and then in 2020, it was just absolutely gut-wrenching the way the campaign was operating and the way everything happened. I was devastated. I mean, I went on Jimmy Dore and, and talked about that whole video I did, because it was just devastating to I get it, dude. I get it. You invested so much. It's time to fucking move on. I will give people a grieving period, because I understand, like, it's like, and nobody's telling you on this show in particular, nobody's asking you to cancel anybody, right? Just simply be aware that you need to hold them to account whenever they're wrong. And there are facts that are indisputable. Just like one of those facts is that we do not in this country have an open border policy, period, end of story. We do not at all. And the conversation always shifts there when it comes to conservatives saying that Democrats want that. The reality is Joe Biden is deporting more people than Donald Trump did. More people already in his first year. So it's kind of
I'll give you one better, fam. He's deported more Haitians already than Donald Trump did in 4 years.
Yep.
How about that? And
those are facts that are undeniable. Those are numbers that are undeniable. It's not me wanting that to be true. It is what it is.
Yeah. And seeing people trying to, well, it's different because his policy is letting him in and then he has to deport him. Whereas if they kept him on the Mexico side of border, and that's why they didn't have to deport him as much. And people are using that fucking talking point. But at the end of the day, when it came to Tulsi Gabbard, when it came to the Congresswoman, it was about looking at the major problem outside, the real problem, where it's coming from, not the Band-Aid solution. That's our foreign policy. That's our interference. That's our regime change wars, which cause chaos and destruction in these countries, forcing them to flee, coming up to the United States. And at the end of the day, wouldn't you, if I was Haitian and they ruined my country, I'd show up on your doorstep too and say, hey, man, you've interfered with our country so many times. You've interfered with our government, our presidents, and now our country's crazy. It's your responsibility. That's why I've always been like, when people are going like, what do you think, it's still okay to let these people in? Excuse me, what happened to individual responsibility on a macro level? Shouldn't we take responsibility for our foreign policy? If we cause chaos in a country and we destabilize a country, shouldn't we be responsible for those people who flee here because we caused that chaos in the first place? So I want to get into this too as well, because it's kind of interesting, because a lot of people, we've had recently Cynthia McKinney on the show. And I found a video that Doug, I think his name is Dave DeBar or Don DeBar. I've seen him on RT's Crosstalk so many times. The guy does a lot of great reporting, whatnot. He was at this UN council almost about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, when then President of Iran, Ahmadinejad, came to New York and met with peace activists, anti-war activists. Well, of course, they chose Cynthia McKinney to go and speak, and I think this is so great because here she is, she's removed from office, they got her out, but yet she's still carrying the flag for peace, saying, let's go, we have to find a way for peace, and this is the way I want us to deal with Iran. One of the big things, the reasons that I was really pissed off on September 11th with Tulsi's comment is that she lumped in Iran with this whole group, which to me is geopolitically kind of saber rattling of sorts, and that is no bueno.
It seems kind of pandering to Zionists as well.
A little bit. I don't want to know. I once again, she didn't see these words, but that's why it was disturbing. So let's take a look at Cynthia McKinney talking to this council where then the president, and they had a beautiful, this is in the Warwick Hotel in New York, they gave a beautiful Persian feast, and the way they introduced her, they were like, she's a fighter for Palestine, and everybody was clapping. The Iranian Commission knew exactly who she was. She's well respected. She's an advocate for peace, and she's still an advocate for peace. So here's Cynthia McKinney. Let's get this rolling.
All of the peace activists gathered here this evening, it is an honor and my pleasure to be with you this evening on the occasion of the International Day of Peace. What we have learned is that it is one thing to have a day, it is quite another to have peace. But I know that everyone in this room is committed first and foremost to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Later, thank you.
And if it were observed by every member state of the United Nations, we could truly celebrate a world in peace. In fact, our former president, John F. Kennedy, cited the topic of world peace as the most important topic on earth. Sadly, not only are we not on the path of peace today, incredibly, we on the path of global conflagration. John Kennedy's admonition is more relevant today than ever. He asked, "What kind of peace do we seek?" and answered his own question this way: not a Pax Americana enforced on the world by American weapons of war, not the peace of the grave or the security of the slave. I'm talking about genuine peace, the kind of peace that makes life on earth worth living, the kind that enables men and nations to grow and to hope and to build a better life for their children. Not merely peace for Americans, but peace for all men and women. Not merely peace in our time, but peace for all time. At no other time in the life of our country were the forces for justice and peace so strong. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. reminded us that the arc of the moral universe bends toward justice. John Kennedy pulled back from war against Castro's Cuba. Malcolm X excited Black America, made Hajj, and broke bread with Dr. King. Bobby Kennedy shocked the conscience of this country and made the impoverished blacks of the Mississippi Delta and the impoverished whites of Appalachia a part of the same American dream. He also shocked the world by speaking against apartheid, not from the comfort of this country, but inside South Africa. And young people inside this country of different races, ethnicities, languages, and incomes united and pressed for justice for Puerto Rico, Mexico, Native Americans, Black Americans, against apartheid in South Africa, and for peace in Vietnam. We, the Popular Front, almost won. But we know how...
Fam, what'd you think about that right off the jump?
I thought it was awesome when she mentioned how Bobby Kennedy united, the black population in Mississippi and the South, impoverished. One of the most impoverished parts still to this day of the country is the South, and united them with the Appalachia. I mean, that's also Fred Hampton, and the YPO and the Rainbow Coalition. It's along those lines of unity. And again, anybody that preaches some sort of unity of the working class across racial, religious, ethnic, differences is a threat to the status quo. The people that push disunity and division are those people that are really you have to watch. And she spoke to that, and she spoke about what it means, peace, what really is peace. It's not just one sector, it's the whole thing on the macro sense.
Yeah, I can't wait till she comes on the show, fam, and you get to talk to her about her trips in Israel and what she witnessed over there, especially with everything so relevant. I'm waiting for her to confirm a time, but she's definitely down to do that. She said she'd love to talk to you about it, fam, and it's going to be exciting when we get that done. But to me, the thing that was so great is that here she is. She's been removed from office. She doesn't play politics. She's sticking to the same thing. Let me tell you something, fam. It really sucks that in the last campaign that my most important issue, and a lot of people's most important issues, is what she talked about right there with global peace, because we can blow up this planet now about 17 times with the missiles we have in submarines alone. It's that crazy and stuff like that. But when it comes to people's interest in voting, it's just a small percentage. But that didn't stop Cynthia from making sure that she got that message out there. This should be one of the most important things, right? I mean, it was a little bit more at the heart in the center when they were teaching kids duck and cover to get underneath their chairs because a bomb could come. Now I think there's a sense of American safety and exceptionalism, that it's not going to come home to them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And therefore they don't pay attention to it as much. But the way she picked it up and marched on with this message, and here she is meeting with a delegate. Now, you know how many people were chastised for going to this, for meeting with the Iranian president at the time, Ahmadinejad? Oh my God, forget about it. Oh, you anti-Semitic assholes. How could you go do that?
To this day, she is smeared as an anti-Semite.
Yes, and she doesn't care. She's going to go talk to peace. Exactly. Now, the last part, which is just a couple minutes more, we got to listen to, because then she talks about what happens about those, like Fred Hampton, who do advocate for peace.
Exactly.
How that chapter ends. JFK with his brains blown out. Malcolm X betrayed from within the nation. Martin Luther King Jr. surrounded by snipers and U.S. military intelligence on his last day alive, while those closest to him were on the FBI payroll. Bobby Kennedy lying in a pool of his own blood after winning the California primary on the road to the White House. The major lesson we must learn and never forget is that those who want to wage war abroad are also willing to wage it at home. So what are we to do? Undaunted, we must organize a peace lobby. A peace lobby grounded in love and truth and respect and human dignity. And we must reach across humanity, setting aside what others have successfully used in the past to divide us. Do I believe it can be done? Absolutely, I believe it can be done. But we cannot allow ourselves to be tricked into believing that the ones who got us into war are going to be the ones to lead us out of it. The peace activists in this room understand all of this and also know that if we fail to act now, who will? Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak this evening.
Yeah. You said preach. Say it again.
Preach.
There you go. Top of the food chain, ladies and gentlemen. The last civil servant, right?
I believe so.
The last one to say, that's it, no matter what, I'm going to take it to the mat. You know, and the thing that really stood out to me is when she said, we can't let the people who led us into war be the ones to think that they're going to be the ones that lead us out of it. In other words, the same tactics we used before that propagate and inflame war, we can't use them now. And that's why, as we get closer to going into what Tulsi's doing right now, was so bothering to me.
Right.
Drone strikes. When people said, oh, she was for drone strikes a long time ago, I thought she was there for, as if it was almost like a compromise. Like, okay, well, I'm not going to strip the military completely down. It's going to be really a fallacy to think that we're going to close all these bases and come home. All right. So, I mean, and that's bending the rules to make an excuse for her that I probably shouldn't have made. But however, I was trying to be pragmatic.
Right. And that's the thing. And that's what they say, right?
Yeah.
They say you need to be pragmatic. You need to be realistic. And again, Bernie Sanders supports drone use too. And we made exceptions for him as well. Yeah. And maybe we shouldn't have. That's the thing, because it's so general and vague. What do you mean by that? What do you mean? Like, what exceptions, right? And you know what, Pasta, I really loved what she said about them bringing, waging war here, because that's exactly what's happening right now at this very moment. They're waging war against the working class. They're waging war against you and I. And that's what's happening. And I think it's amazing that she actually said that. Like, you know, and again, Cynthia McKinney is not in Congress anymore, but understand why she's not in Congress.
Absolutely. And when we talk about what happened at the border, let's look at the proper way to criticize what happened at the border. Once again, you must always keep your eye on the prize. What is the cause and effect? Why are these Haitian people coming here through South and Central America to come to America? So, Johnny, if you can put this tweet on real quick. This is how you criticize what's going on the border. Not Trump's policy is better than Biden's. That's irrelevant. The root cause of the problem, imperialism. And she puts it right here. I'm going to bring it up myself. I don't even have it myself ready. Look at me. Hey, Hillary, where's the $13 billion given for Haiti? How's that gold mine in Haiti that you stole for your brother working out for you? How is your bought and paid for presidents that you've installed working for you? Hey, Joe, where's the justice? That is the root cause of the problem. And the Clintons have a lot to do with this. And Absolutely. Joe Biden was in office while this was going on. This isn't just, oh, this shit happened the other day and Haitians showed up at our door. This is years of instability, of puppet governments planted by people like the Clintons, where Joe Biden was okay with it and stuff like that. This has nothing to do with what fucking policy is better. Let's keep them on this side of the border or that side of the border. Why are they coming here? Cynthia McKinney is always consistent on telling us why.
100%. I mean, yeah, that was a pasta rant.
But
it's absolutely true. That's the root cause of every problem, and that's my issue with talking about something that isn't happening, which is an open border. Real quick, I just want to make sure we get this in. Johnny, you have the definition of open borders, right? Because this is going to play into what we're going to talk about. So if you want to go over that real quick, because we need to define that so we know. Please.
So what's up?
What's up?
Open borders, definitions, pro and cons. So I just want to kind of pull this up. This is from April 24th, 2021. Open border policies allow people to move freely between countries or political jurisdictions with no restrictions. A country's borders may be open because the government has either no border control laws by choice or because it lacks the resources needed to enforce immigration control laws. The term open borders does not apply to the flow of goods and services to the boundaries or to the boundaries between privately owned properties. So key takeaways: open borders, the term, refers to government policies allowing immigrants to enter this country with little or no restriction. Another key takeaway is that borders may be open due to the absence of border control laws or the lack of resources needed to enforce such laws. Open borders are the opposite of closed borders, which bar the entry of foreign nationals except under extraordinary circumstances. So, here it says, in the strictest sense, the term open border implies that people may travel to and from a country without presenting a passport, visa, or another form of legal documentation. It does not, however, imply that the new immigrants will automatically be granted citizenship. In addition to fully open borders, there are two other types of international borders classified according to the degrees of openness. So there's conditionally open borders, who allow people to who meet a legally established set of conditions to freely enter the country. And then there's controlled borders. Countries with controlled borders place restrictions, sometimes significant, on immigration. Today, the United States and a majority of developed nations have controlled borders.
Wait, it's not open, Johnny?
No, it's not open border. We don't have fucking open borders.
Why did they say that then?
I don't know why she's fucking saying that.
It's a fucking dog whistle.
Yep.
It's a dog whistle. You know, when I go back to Boca Raton, I'm going to hear all these people say, well, now that Biden's in office, it's open borders, so now these people are coming because they knew Trump would say no. And then you look at the deportation numbers and you're like, wait a second. Obama deported more people than Trump in his first 4 years. Biden has already deported more Haitians than Trump did in 4 years. Where are you guys getting this from? But both parties play this fucking game. They go back
in the media
and forth
as well.
Yes. Instead of looking at the root problem, the thing that was always consistent about Tulsi was she pointed out the root problem. Let's end these wasteful regime change wars.
Yep.
That's where we were focused. Who gives a shit about the Band-Aid solutions? And I get it. Yeah, we got to deal with it now that it's on there, but you cannot deal with this properly until you deal with the root cause, and that is ending American imperialism, period.
So before you go on to the next thing, I just want to say, when a person lies, when a politician, and politicians are even worse because they have power. Tulsi's no longer in Congress.
And followers.
Yes.
But she's got a ton of followers. She's got a ton of influence, right? And so she's an ex-congresswoman. She may run again for something.
Yep.
You know, that's what everybody's saying. When you blatantly lie about something like that, it's an obvious dog whistle to the right. Like, obviously, Pasta just said it. Like, it's just not true. It's not factual. I lose a ton of respect because you're lying. We just proved to you that we do not have open borders. Now, why would you say something like that? Right? Why? The question is why. Right? Why? Well, who knows? But to me, it's the act, the lie, in lying to your audience and lying to people who supported you with something so easily disproven is just ridiculous to me. And this is why we're doing the story, because we owe you guys the truth.
Yeah.
Because it's completely false. It's entirely false. We wouldn't have we wouldn't have ICE, we wouldn't have the Department of Homeland Security, we wouldn't have these people on horseback. Now horses are banned, which is cool, but not the way we treat people. Like we wouldn't have this whole situation at the border if we had an open border.
Yeah.
Like, it would be a completely different situation. Nobody here on this show is telling you that we should or shouldn't have open borders. What we are saying is that we do not have open borders right now.
And, I also want to concentrate on the fact that why are we taking our eye off the prize? Why are we getting away from talking about the cause and effect? What's the cause? And that's something that Tulsi was always consistent on. And a lot of people who watched this yesterday, too, when she went on Fox, they were like, this just doesn't seem like Tulsi. And I got to agree. I'm not trying to get all crazy tinfoil hat over here, but she doesn't seem normal when she's talking about it. It just doesn't seem like the normal Tulsi. But let's get rolling into this. Let's break this down, because it starts off with, and you hear Joe Biden is my friend again, which just makes me want to throw something. But how do we leave out that American imperialism is the main reason why Haitians are here?
Which, by the way, I go after Bernie for saying Joe Biden is a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
She's doing the same thing,
Here
guys.
we go.
And this was after her Tucker appearance, right?
Yep, this was yesterday.
Okay. So maybe this guy was like, hey, come on to my show. And
well, they're not going to have her on MSNBC and CNN. You know what I'm saying? The way they treated her was disgusting.
It was.
And you know what I'm saying? I have a hard time believing that this is just a person who's upset and is just lashing back out. I think Tulsi's smarter than that. I think she's stronger than that. I don't know what her motives are right now. And once again, to all those Tulsi people watching, believe you me, this is not like my most happiest moment to do this, but we have to do this because we have to be consistent, because we've always been consistent and we've always been honest with you, and we need to break this down. So let's go.
Let's bring in former Hawaii Democratic Congresswoman, former presidential candidate, and Army reservist, Tulsi Gabbard. She's just back from deployment in Africa to go after al-Qaeda affiliate jihadists there. Congresswoman, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Brett.
I want to talk about Afghanistan, foreign policy, and counterterrorism, but I want to start on the issue of immigration that's pressing now in the news. You tweeted out this today. You said the Biden-Harris open door policy has been a disaster. It needs to end now. The main beneficiaries of open borders are the gangs, cartels, and human traffickers. The Trump policy of having people wait on the other side of the border worked and needs to be reinstated. Your thoughts about what's happening in Del Rio and how the administration is handling it?
It is an utter disaster and failure, and it's directly attributed to the Biden-Harris administration's open border policy. This is not only a humanitarian crisis, it is a national security crisis, and it's something I've said all along, which is that if we do not secure our borders, then we can't have a secure nation. There are so many issues that have happened under this administration that have led to this point, and their continued failure of leadership is exacerbating the crisis that we're seeing play out before our very eyes.
But do you think, having been in Congress, that Congress can deal with this issue?
Congress has proven, unfortunately, to put partisan politics ahead of actually passing real necessary immigration policy reform. But what we've seen under the last several months under this administration, unfortunately, and Joe Biden is a friend, I hold no malice towards him, but I have to say that the policies and decisions that have been made via executive order by the White House have led to this open border policy with thousands, tens of thousands of people coming and attempting to, and sometimes successfully streaming across the border.
And you think that's a national security threat as well?
It absolutely is. How can you say that it's not when we have no idea who is coming across the border? And once again, how can we ensure safety and security for the American people when we don't have a secure border?
All right.
Fam, I'll let you get the first crack at this right now because I obviously, you know what I'm saying. All I have to say is that the Tulsi I know would have said, all right, but first we got to talk about why they're coming here. Like, it's just void. It's not even talked about now. That was like your whole campaign. That was your whole policy. U.S. imperialism as the biggest problem leading to all this shit. Now that's just out the window.
How are a bunch of people who don't have a pot to piss on a national security threat is what I want to know. Like, how? First of all, she lied. We just said there's no open border policy. 1. 2, why are Haitians coming in a national security threat? She sounds like Donald Trump when he said, we don't know who's coming in. We got these rapists. Like, why? Guys, like, why? Like, she's literally sounds like a neocon right now. This is disappointing for a lot of people. I mean, this isn't something that we wanted to be doing ever. You think these people are a national security threat? You think Zorro's paid all these people to bring their child through, up through? Because there are people saying that. Why do you think, these people are coming? Zorro's obviously fun. No, dude. Zorro's is a piece of shit that does fund a lot of NGOs. He did not fund these people to go up through Brazil and Colombia, which is one of the most dangerous parts. Okay, when people go up through the border, women get raped. This happens. They have their fucking children. Like, do you think that these people are getting paid by the thousands to come here for that? Are you serious? Now, this is a national security threat. These people that are just trying to get water. Are you fucking kidding me?
Holding on the food like it's no tomorrow. Look, you got people coming after them, and they won't drop the food because they're bringing it to their loved ones and their families who's ever survived. That's the majority of this people. We know that. I mean...
And another thing, Pasta, she mentions the drugs and the cartels. Who the fuck led to the creation and the exacerbated disaster of the drug trafficking industry in Central America? Please, and Latin America. Please let me know who.
The CIA.
I mean, the fucking Pedro Castillo's own party was like, yeah, the DEA are the biggest cartel. They are. We want them out. Like, this is a fact.
Yeah.
This is a fact. And then what happened with those drugs? Oh, yeah, they brought them to America. They got a bunch of people addicted to that. And what we have now is the drug issue, right? And that, of course, that is what the CIA has been involved in, the DEA. You can't tell me that these people, these Haitians, are going to smuggle in drugs, and that's why it's a national security threat.
And let me just show you an example of how they answer that question. Fam, ask me which policy is better at the border, Trump or Biden's.
Fam, which policy is better at the border, Trump or Biden's?
I don't care. It really is irrelevant. What is important is the fact that we're destabilizing Haiti so corporations can go in there and extract all these resources while the people suffer, and now they have to come here. Why don't we start with stopping that?
It's the same policy, too, by the way. They haven't changed a thing. It's the Trump era policy.
The 42, right?
Yeah.
Whatever.
You can fucking find it. It's the same exact policy. Nothing's been changed. And in fact, it's been exacerbated. They're deporting more people. Like, this is, not only is she lying, she's misrepresenting things and catering to a certain audience. And it's really uncomfortable to watch.
And just for the record, we have reached out very nicely, kindly.
So have other people.
Yeah, so, you know what I'm saying? Would you like to come on and explain your point of view and clarify some of the statements? I have some questions. We have a lot more questions now than we ever did. Tulsi always gave us access to her, and when she did any rally, she would always have a press gaggle at the end.
That's what we liked about her.
That was the most amazing thing about her. She faced the music. She went, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Now she's not doing that anymore. Now she can be more of a controlled kind of environment, and she gets to go on, and she's going on a network that will not push back the way we're pushing back about this very, very subject, which we thought she championed more than anybody.
Right.
Now let's get on to the bigger issue that needs to be addressed. Once again, Tulsi used to lead with, let's, stop the extremism by stop participating in this endless regime change wars. Now the language has changed to, we need to take them out.
Yeah,
this was like this. Watch this next part, fam. This part really pissed me off.
The counterterrorism fight, the president talking about how it's evolving, how it's going to change. Take a listen.
We'll meet terrorist threats that arise today and in the future with a full range of tools available to us. We're better equipped to detect and prevent terrorist threats, and we are more resilient in our ability to repel them and to respond.
There are a lot of people, Congresswoman, who say what happened in Afghanistan and what is happening now and how we handled it has really opened the door for more terrorists. You've just come back from Africa, which is also a hotbed of radical jihadists. Your thoughts on where we are?
Well, as you know, Brett, in both East and West Africa, there is a surge of these jihadist terrorists. Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and affiliated groups are increasing in their strength. The withdrawal from Afghanistan is something that I agreed with, but unfortunately, the way that this administration executed that withdrawal has been an utter and abject disaster, which is continuing to play out as we speak. For those who say, and we should continue to monitor Afghanistan to make sure that there are no Al-Qaeda and ISIS strongholds that are allowed to start to take root. If we're seeing that that's starting to happen, then we need to go and take them out. But we should not be under the illusion that this is a problem that's only limited to Afghanistan. And the proof of that is that Al-Qaeda, for a very long time, has been able to get refuge and actually have training camps and support in Pakistan, which is a problem that not only hasn't been addressed, but we've seen the United States continue to support Pakistan in spite of this known fact and reality. So this is a bigger issue here that really needs to be addressed.
Fam. We need to take them out, fam. I mean, it seems like just manufacturing consent for endless wars rather than stopping regime change wars.
Look,
maybe I'm wrong. But
I will give her one thing. Yeah, it was a mess the way things were done in Afghanistan. Absolutely. But again, that's not the prime focus here. The prime focus is even when she talks about Pakistan, like, and she had mentioned Iran earlier, like she didn't mention, she equated Iran with Saudi Arabia. Like she is manufacturing consent for not just Afghanistan, but now everywhere. Oh, we need to go after these people now. We need to take them out. We need to stop involving ourselves, period.
Yeah.
That's what got us into this mess in the first place. Remember what Cynthia McKinney said. We cannot expect those that got us into this mess to fucking fix it. She is literally advocating we do what we did already.
Yeah.
And like, that is not an anti-war message. That is not an anti-imperialist message. That is not even remotely a non-interventionist message. That is a very pro-manufacturing consent message. And drone warfare is, of course, this administration's tool. Like, that's what they're going to use. They're going to use a less boots on the ground, but more drone warfare. And that causes more civilian casualties. That we pointed this out multiple times. So just this very hawkish language of saying we got to take these people out is extremely. Imagine if a Republican said it, just like anybody, Hillary Clinton, you could put any of these people. They all agree on this type of rhetoric, on this type of foreign policy. That is what she ran. She ran against interventionism, and here she is advocating it.
Yeah, and you hit it on the nose. And, I want to also reiterate that in her first couple statements, she said the number one issue we have is the extremist, the Islamist ideology, right? And that's just a further thing from the truth. It's always been our involvement, our fueling of these situations. We've had many guests on, Mark Sloboda, Max Blumenthal, talked about how America funds these factions out there. That is the biggest problem, and that's where she was. Even though she did mention that the fact that we still aid Pakistan, you know what I'm saying, it was just so small. You know what I'm saying? That should be the main issue. Why are we funding these people? Why are we there? Even Rumsfeld said, and I keep repeating this, that he said, maybe we're creating more terrorists than we're killing. Duh. And that's what I thought Tulsi was all about. But this seems to be like a 180 to me. Pam, here's a good question. Why are you still a fucking Democrat? Here you go.
Are you still a Democrat?
Yes.
And will continue to be, despite the criticism on a number of fronts?
Well, look, I've never been about party politics, Brett. I think you know that about me. I'm about putting country first. And the problems that we're seeing on a whole host of policy fronts is those in positions of power and leadership putting partisan politics, their own selfish desire for power, ahead of the interests of the country, ahead of the interests of the people. And that's what I always try to do my very best in looking at different policies, is we have to put the people and the interests of our country first.
So it's like she's remaining a Democrat, but she's dog whistling to Republicans. So it's almost like she's trying to like infiltrate the Democrats. But listen, guys, at the end of the day, the neocons and the neoliberals both want war. They agree when it comes to war and cutting anything for the working class. So again, it's very weird. She hesitated too. Did you notice?
Yeah. No, and
yeah.
And these facial expressions, sometimes they're like, what the hell is that? Like, you know what I'm saying? Let's play the last 2 minutes really quick, because this is kind of gets into that whole theme we've been talking about. What is the big issue here? What is the number one cause of problem? Isn't it imperialism? Well, you know, at one point, we'll just watch this right now, what she says about this. This is the last 2 minutes.
Well, I want to ask you about this. You know, we're just getting the tip of the iceberg about this John Durham investigation, and there's been an indictment of a Hillary Clinton attorney, Mr. Sussman, about basically infusing this Russia narrative with the help of various media outlets and others. And it may go other places. We don't know. We're following it. But you have a unique perspective in that Hillary Clinton once called you a Russian asset. Just to remind people, take a listen.
They're also going to do third party again. And I'm not making any predictions, but I think they've got their eye on somebody who's currently in the Democratic primary and are grooming her to be the third party candidate. She's a favorite of the Russians. Yeah, she's a Russian asset. I mean, totally. And so they know they can't win without a third party candidate.
They went on to confirm that that was you that she was referring to. Your thoughts as we're starting to get this Durham investigation and what that means?
Confirms what I've known to be true, which is that you have the power elite, people like Hillary Clinton, those around her, working with the media, the deep state, in order to bring down the destruction and downfall of anyone that they deem to be a threat to their power. Outsiders, people like me, people like Donald Trump, doesn't matter, Democrat or Republican, if they identify, hey, this is someone who's not going to toe the line, this is someone who's not going to follow kind of the establishment way of things that are accepted, they pose a threat, and we will do, they will do all they can to silence or censor or cancel what they view to be a threat. And so this is bigger than about me or Trump or anyone else. This is actually a threat to our country and our democracy, and the arrogance that these people have in thinking they have the right to manipulate the American people, what they view, what they hear, what they see, all to preserve their own selfish interests, not caring at all about the impact on the country, the impact of the American people, or who gets hurt along the way.
It's always interesting to hear your point of view. Welcome back.
Fam. All right, fam. First off, I just want to say that I didn't go into the whole Sussman story that a lot of people are like, why are you covering this and what she's talking about right here? Because it's a fucking joke.
Yeah.
Because the whole system is rotten to the core. The FBI was involved with what happened when it came to Russiagate. It could have took a 6-year-old to figure out that all the shit was fucking untrue. And Kevin Kleinsmith, who fucking forged an email, changed an email to further the investigation to the FISA courts, got probation. He got nothing. So what do you think Sussman's going to get? Okay, they were involved. The media was involved. The whole system needs to be blown the fuck up, right? Because they all propagated this lie and they carried it on from the get-go. When Sussman was there, he was like, I'm just a concerned citizen. Well, it's funny, when I look at your fucking payroll over here and I look at your books, I see that you do business with the Clinton campaign. Hello? I'm not going to cover that bullshit anymore because what's going to happen is he's going to get nothing. It's going to be a slap on the wrist, and it's just all theater. So if you want to fucking cover the bullshit, you think it's the bombshell, just like that Australian guy told us at the fucking park, and I kind of laughed. I tried not to laugh as hard because it's a fucking joke, okay? But now all of a sudden, this is the outsider. Trump's now an outsider. Okay.
Trump is an outsider.
It's an outsider.
The Trump that Operation Warp Speed, the Trump that didn't pardon Julian Assange, the Trump that literally told his supporters to take the boop boop. Are you serious? That Trump, the Trump that literally didn't do anything for vets, didn't do anything for the working class and the people he he's not an outsider, Tulsi. And people thought you were an outsider, right? When you were challenging the imperialism, the status quo. And she does talk about how these people are, they mentioned the Hillary Clinton Queen of Warmongers quote and how Hillary Clinton attacked her. So she does talk about how, these people do have their interests and they do want to stop what people listen to, what people hear. And all of that is true. But what's also true is that there's this cultural war happening between the left and the right, and she seems to now be a part of that. The culture war grift that is like, well, censorship only applies to the ideology I adhere to. Protesting is bad if it's the issue that I care about. That's what it seems like here. She's playing team sports, and if you're gonna say that you're an outsider, you don't play team sports. Yep. You challenge the system at its core, regardless of where you might be ideologically. Because if Tulsi had conservative stances, which I've always thought she's had some, and she was still fairly critical of the system as a whole, I wouldn't have a problem. But it seems like she's still pandering, and she's trying to make Trump and a bunch of people who are still pushing the status quo something that they're not. They're not outsiders. They're part of the whole thing. We wouldn't have what we have today with Joe Biden if Donald Trump hadn't been president. Donald Trump was the key to pushing all of these attacks on our civil liberties, all of the censorship. Without Donald Trump, maybe we would have people fighting for election integrity on the left. But now, any sort of questioning of the mandates, any sort of questioning of the boop boop, any sort of questioning of elections, that's a right-wing talking point. And that is because of Donald Trump. And Donald Trump was a whole part of this whole fucking shindig from the fucking start.
Just listen to Tulsi right here. Whatnot. Here we go.
This is how she used to be.
This is the betrayal. This is the betrayal to the American people, to me, to my fellow service members. We were all lied to, told that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, was working with al-Qaeda, and that this posed a threat to the American people. So I enlisted after 9/11 to protect our country, to go after those who attacked us on that fateful day, who took the lives of thousands of Americans. The problem is that this current president is continuing to betray us. We were supposed to be going after al-Qaeda, but over years now, not only have we not gone after al-Qaeda, who is stronger today than they were in 9/11, our president is supporting al-Qaeda.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
There you go.
What
did she just say? Did she not just say that our president, the commander-in-chief, the head of the military,
Donald Trump at that point,
supporting al-Qaeda? Isn't that the big fucking problem? It's the same thing. Our government, who's ever in charge, whatever president, you can just reel them in, reel them out, replace them, are supporting these fucking groups, is supporting al-Qaeda. Now you're saying the thing that our government is supporting, that itself is the big problem? That's what they would say as they were backdoor funding them.
Yep.
You completely are contradicting yourself. I'm sorry, fam.
No.
And they cut her off there, too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah.
Because she's calling them out, and now all of a sudden now she's joining the fucking theater.
And by the way, she endorsed Joe Biden because she said Donald Trump was the enemy that we needed to defeat Donald Trump, that he was so bad. So all of a sudden this shift to saying Trump is an outsider, and she's like giving Trump, so much love, and it's like, but you didn't like him. You voted for Joe Biden because you were afraid of the danger of Donald Trump. Now all of a sudden he's the good guy. It just feels so disingenuous. It's just you can spot it from a mile away. It's just not right.
I mean, this is a complete 180 right
here.
Yeah. This is a complete 180. She's therefore saying the president is supporting al-Qaeda. She's talking about the government supporting terrorists.
But now she's saying she wants him back.
That he's the outsider, and now the problem isn't the government supporting them. Now the problem is the terrorists themselves.
Right. Not the government funding.
Okay. See, can you not understand why we're so upset?
Right.
Can you not understand why we're so fucking disappointed and angry? Okay? It's just a complete 180. That's all.
And the last part is, do we really have open borders?
Yeah.
We've answered that. If you want to read
Black in the Empire. The Biden administration deported more people from
Yep.
Haiti in its first few weeks in office than Trump did in all of 2020. And that was with the whole talk about the, the whips and the horses, whatnot. I love Unapologetic. I love Black in the Empire. If you guys haven't checked out their Twitters, they're going to have YouTube shows. Unapologetic already has a YouTube show. But Dontel and Daryl, they're fucking awesome. I love sharing their stuff, and that's the point. Like, we don't have open borders.
So, by the way, they're going to be banning horses.
Yeah.
So, one giant step forward. I'm glad horses aren't. Yeah, let's hear.
So what he has asked all of us to convey clearly to people who are understandably have questions, are passionate, are concerned, as we are about the images that we have seen, is one, we feel those images are horrible and horrific. There is an investigation the president certainly supports, overseen by the Department of Homeland Security, which he has conveyed will happen quickly. I can also convey to you that the secretary also conveyed to civil rights leaders earlier this morning that we would no longer be using horses in Del Rio. So that is a policy change that has been made in response. But separately, all related, it's also important for people to understand what our process and our immigration process is and what the steps are that are taken.
Which I love what Black in the Empire put. He's like, who gives a fuck? They're deporting more Haitians now than Trump did in his 4 years of office. They're putting these people who made this fucking grueling trip to escape their country that's in ruins right now because of American imperialism, and we're putting them on a plane to send them back to their deathbeds.
Yep.
That is the fucking issue. That is something. We don't have open borders. Stop with this fucking dog whistling bullshit. That's all it is. We got to protect Americans. No, you want to protect Americans? Stop sending fucking troops across seas for the benefit of corporations. For the benefit of individuals to make billions and trillions of dollars, stealing resources from all these countries, turning them into chaos for it to come home. The chickens is coming home to roost.
And domestically, you want to protect Americans? Don't cut off unemployment on Labor Day.
The
eviction moratorium, rent cancellation. You could have helped Americans by giving Medicare for all. They're not doing any of this shit. Okay? So, you know what? Like, I'm just done with this.
Yeah.
Like, this is just bad.
That's it. That's that section. By the way, John, you got anything else on this section? Because it just, it's disappointing. Yeah. It really is disappointing. And that's why we're just calling it out for what it is.